Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second Big Money Talks video style. I did this last week on video for the first time ever, and it was a bit frightening. And the second time, just as frightening. uh, Full disclosure, I actually am doing the second take of this podcast because the first one was a mess. It was a total mess. There's work being done. They're installing a new elevator in my building, and there was a lot of drilling and banging, not the good kind. Miro, Miro, you know all about that. One of these fell out of my ear, and it was just a mess. So we're gonna do this again, and I'm excited because it's we're getting into the holiday mood. Happy Hanukkah to any of my Jewish friends and anybody watching. I hope you're having a wonderful holiday. Christmas is right around the corner. If you couldn't tell, I have a nice little festive thing going on behind me. And then, oh, look at these three guys. You guys know who they are. That was a purchase in Toys R Us before Toys R Us closed when they were doing their sale when they were saying goodbye. So I purchased them. That was a wonderful purchase. I love that. I really do. Uh, so this week I said this on Twitter. This week I'm going to do something a little different. This week I am going to talk about Raw and SmackDown, but I am also going to do my top 5 favorite wrestling matches that I've seen since returning to wrestling in 2012. So it's like top 5 matches of the last decade, but I imposed this extra rule on myself that I can only do 2012 to 2019. So no 2010, no 2011. And that plays a factor in this top 5 list. Trust me, you're going to find out. So first, what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk about SmackDown. SmackDown wasn't too bad. It ended with a DQ, which is like the WWE thing to do these days. Raw didn't end with a DQ because they didn't have a match, but I bet you if they had a match, it was going to end with a DQ because that's just what ends up happening these days. But I want to talk about the highlights first, okay? Of course, Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is wonderful, and I love everything that he does. That's a little, it's like, oh, there's got to be something negative. I'm sorry. There's nothing wrong with the Roman Reigns story. It's been fantastic. He's been fantastic. Jey Uso has been fantastic. Paul Heyman has been fantastic. And now Kevin Owens as well. He's been fantastic. What he's done, what Roman's done, has basically made himself to be the provider for everyone's families because he's at the top on SmackDown. That's a great story to me. That's a great story. So he looks right into the camera like this and talks straight to Kevin Owens' family. Woof, man. That was a great segment. Really great segment. And Kevin Owens, he did really good too, because it's not often that somebody could talk about tables, ladders, and chairs, or like any gimmick type of match and talk about the gimmick, like Elimination Chamber for the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, or Hell in a Cell for the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. Usually they don't sound good, those promos. But Kevin Owens, he made that promo really fun, talking like, hey, my chairs, like everybody was like a friend of his. It was really cool. So the interesting thing about it was that Jey Uso asked for permission to go out and attack Kevin, and Roman allowed him to, gave him permission, but then Jay failed. So I'm wondering if we're going to get some consequences this week, this Friday, because he failed to put Kevin Owens down, and he had to do the job himself. So I'm wondering if we're going to get something with that. And also, what I would like to see is like the return of Jimmy. And now I don't know how much longer Jimmy is supposed to be out, but we did see him at Hell in a Cell. Jay lost because of him, pretty much. Jay quit. Jay said, "I quit," because Roman was hurting Jimmy to a ridiculous degree. And Jay had to say, "I quit," so that this way Roman would stop. So I'm interested in seeing, like, when Jimmy comes back, how they're going to incorporate the family angle into this, because Jimmy, as far as we've seen so far, has not been a fan of what Roman's been doing. So him coming back and being away from that, I think that'll be really fun. So we'll probably see that, I'm guessing, next year. I don't know when Jimmy's coming back again, so I don't know. But I would like to see that when that happens. And I'm sure that the match between Roman and Kevin Owens is going to be really fun. Another thing I wanted to talk about with SmackDown was the Sami Zayn Big E match. Now, at the time, I didn't know how I felt about Big E losing the way that most of Sami's opponents had been losing as of late. You know, Sami was able to find these extra ways to get out of wrestling, essentially, and getting out of losing by using countouts. I remember he did it to Apollo. He did it to Apollo a couple of weeks back when he got Apollo tied up underneath the ring, got his leg tied up on like the metal parts, dove in at the 9 count, and Sami retained. And then when he was facing Daniel Bryan ran to the back to chase him, and then only Sami Zayn came out and slid into the ring at the 9 count. Sami Zayn wins because Jey Uso attacked Daniel Bryan in the back. So last week, I was a very big fan. I laughed out loud at that shirt that Big E introduced, the "I am Sami Zayn" shirt with the stick figure and the beard drawing. That was really funny. And it was the match was pretty good, but I didn't know how I felt at the moment using Big E for that count out thing. You know, Sami goes under the ring and then Big E follows him under the ring, and I just didn't know how I felt about it at the time. But after thinking about it over the weekend, I actually am okay with it. I'm okay with it because let me say, I will be more okay with it if it leads to a more seriousness to Big E. Now, I was not, when these three were together, my fandom went up and down, as I'm sure a lot of people did. Sometimes I didn't want them to be together anymore. They got a little stale around like 2017, 2018. And I was always like, I was one of the people who was like, oh yeah, Big E could turn heel on them, sure. But when Kofi Mania happened, I totally flipped. Totally. I'm like, you know what? No. Let them stay together, because after the Kofi Mania stuff, I became like an even bigger fan, and I wanted them to stay together. So I was actually very sad when they split them up in the draft. Very sad about that. But they're still together, here and here and here. But what they've been doing with Big E, splitting him after they split him up, they gave him that Wale song, really nice song. I like it a lot. And they brought the chalk gimmick back. So he's like slapping the chalk. I love that visual of slapping the chalk and then that big dust cloud. I really like that visual a lot. So when they ran around the ring and then under the ring and then Sammy comes back out, you could see Big E was angry about it. And I'm hoping that carries into next week. And if they're having a match at TLC, I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember them saying that they were having a match, but we'll find out on Friday, I guess. So I will be more okay with that if it leads to a more seriousness to him. And again, like I say more seriousness, but I love Big E the way that he is, really. I wasn't one of the people that wanted them to stop the pancakes and the bootios and all that stuff. I actually didn't mind that at all. But I would like to see like a little bit more seriousness from him. Those were pretty much the highlights of SmackDown, because the rest of it was like, Dolph Ziggler calling. I did like, just because I'm a fan of them, Dolph Ziggler calling the Street Profits Diesel Samiro. That was pretty funny. I like Diesel Samiro. So Brooklyn and Bronx, we represent. We're good. That was a funny moment, but I knew Dolph was going to win because of course he was going to win. It just had to happen that way, because that's what WWE does. I'm not a huge fan of the Dolph Ziggler Bobby Roode pairing, Robert Roode pairing, but I mean, they're going to have a match, I'm sure, at TLC. Hopefully, the Street Profits retain. I'm hoping, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. And then the other thing that I didn't like, the last thing I'm going to talk about from SmackDown, the DQ ending. So Carmella, I never didn't like Carmella, but this like whole new thing that they have her doing, I'm like up and down on it. Her promos have been pretty good, actually. I have actually liked her promos, and the one that she cut on SmackDown last Friday was really good. I liked having that like assistant. I forgot the name, what they called him. Come out, and then he took a bank statement, and then he kind of like got involved at the end. But then, of course, classic stupid babyface syndrome. She had to get involved with that. Sasha had to get involved with that, and then, that I can't stand that. But the ref like immediately DQ'd them, or DQ'd. I think DQ'd Sasha for whatever reason, and then Carmella hit her with a bottle, and just like, why this bait and switch nonsense? Just do a match, or don't do a match. Don't do a match. If you're going to do a DQ, it's just better to not do the match. It could have easily just been the contract signing, and that was it. And to just have the match at TLC. I don't really understand what the point of was that. Because they actually made that story like the primary focus of the show. Usually Roman Reigns is the primary focus of the show, but yeah, I wasn't a fan of that. So we'll see what happens on Friday and what happens at TLC. So on Raw, On Raw, uh, another show with more misses than hits. Like, all right. So let me go again. Let me do the high points. A lot of people are not liking the Randy Orton, Bray Wyatt Fiend storyline, but I am actually. I am liking the story, and I think that it's actually been going pretty well. The Firefly Funhouse field trip thing that they did last night, that I wasn't really a fan of. Bray telling those jokes. Uh, but I did like after that segment when Bray was playing hide and seek with Randy, and uh, one of the funniest parts of the show. There were two like really funny parts of the show. One of them was when Bray is trying to find Randy throughout the arena, and then he comes across Matt Riddle. And Matt Riddle has that whiteboard with the pronouns. The comedy with Matt has been hit and miss, but I like bro nuts. I didn't really care about bro nuts, but bro nouns with the Venn diagram of bros and people who talk, and him wanting to hit the target audience in the middle of people who both are bros and talk. That made me laugh. That actually made me laugh. That was a good one. So that one I liked. Uh, but then Bray finds the rocking chair in the dark room, and he sits down in the rocking chair. It's like, oh, you could kind of like see like that old Bray was coming back. He's rocking, and then you couldn't really see his face that well, but you could see that like, oh, this is very familiar. And I really enjoyed that. Orton hit him from behind, then puts him in that trunk and lights the trunk on fire. Randy likes lighting things on fire, especially when Bray is involved in stuff. Out comes the Fiend, mandible claw on Orton, and Orton passes out. I liked that. I liked that a lot. That could have been the ending to the show. That would have been fine with me, because I didn't really like the ending of the show that much. Um, the other thing that actually I laughed at on the show was one particular moment in the opening segment when Miz was talking about, he brought in AJ, he snapped, and then the light shined onto AJ just standing there with a smile on his face. That was a funny moment. I laughed at that moment as well. But the whole thing with Miz and Morrison, woof. Oh my goodness. Hmm. No, no. It's like the Michael Scott thing from The Office. No, please, God, no, no. Just no. It's really just no. I, you know, Raw doesn't have that many tag teams, so it would be nice if Miz and Morrison like started being a tag team again instead of getting involved in all this stuff. Just no, no. Sheamus came out, and and Sheamus, they had a really good match. Honestly, I have to tell you, I don't remember the last time Sheamus had a bad match. I really don't remember. The match was good, and I like having Omos there. They've been calling him Omos now, Jordan, AJ's bodyguard. Um, I don't know when they started calling him Omos, but that's a thing now. And I like his dynamic out in the outside because he's such a huge guy. It's a great dynamic. Um, and uh, then Sheamus lost and just got slammed with the chair shots. It was like, oh my goodness, it was brutal. But again, it worked, and it probably means that Sheamus will be out of TLC, so it won't be in Drew's corner. I'm guessing that was the point of that. But also interesting that Drew never came out to help Sheamus after the big fight and the whole makeup, that whole thing from last Monday. So I don't know what that was about, but we'll see. So that wasn't too bad. And then the last thing that I really liked on Raw was Cedric Alexander. Like, Cedric is doing this this really awesome thing where even if he doesn't win the match, like he's in the match, but he's not the one that scores the pinfall, he just gets elated and he's like, I did it. And I really like that a lot. It's like that Rock in the Nation of Domination type thing. So I'm pleased with that. I would like to see more of that. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't mind Hurt Business getting the Raw Tag Championship on Sunday, especially if it continues to boost Cedric's ego to the point where like MVP and them are like, yeah, bud, you got to stop this. Would be interesting if like they win and then Cedric's ego gets so massive that like, you know what, Bobby is going to be the tag team champion now, not you. So you give it to him and like give him like punishment or something. I don't know, but something like that would be really exciting. Because I am enjoying this just elated, totally egomaniacal, like I'm the reason why all this stuff is happening, Cedric. And I mean, last week he really was the one that won, because Shelton Benjamin hasn't been winning that much. Cedric has been winning, so we'll see what happens with that. But again, I wouldn't mind actually Hurt Business getting the championships at TLC. Now, the rest of Raw was blah. Well, no, you know what? There was one more thing. One more thing that was positive that I wanted to mention was Ali getting Mace to shut him down, to shut down Ricochet, and then Mace won. That actually didn't mind that much. If they make Ali kind of do the like Lana thing with Rusev crush, and then he would go into the pose and then the opponent would tap out. I wouldn't mind that with Ali and Retribution. I think maybe that's what they should have him doing. They should have him out there. The person, whoever it is, T-Bar or Reckoning, whomever, Slapjack, just like shut him down, and then they do some sick finisher and they win. Something different than just Ali tries to get involved and then the babyface, hulks up or whatever, and then he's like cowering back and stuff like that. I wasn't really a fan of that, and I love Ali, but that part of it I wasn't really a fan of. If they do it like this, okay, I think I'd be okay with that. Ricochet right now, honestly, short term, put him in Retribution. Maybe it's not that bad. I don't know. I mean, he's already used to wearing a mask, Lucha Underground. So short term though, because I don't want him to just take on that whole, I wonder what his name would be. I'd think of something like that. What Ricochet's name would be in Retribution. But yeah, that'll be interesting. Short term though, again. Now, one of the two low points that I really want to mention, Lana. Like, okay, so Asuka has been the champion for a while, but you wouldn't know it really because when has she ever defended the title? When has she actually like been on her own and been the Asuka that we know and love? It's been a little while. It really has. But so now Lana defeats Nia. Okay, I'm fine with that. And that pinfall, that Miro uh, tweeted about. That was pretty funny. Um, so I'm fine with that. But then Nia and Shayna attack her. Now she's out of TLC. Why? I didn't see anything about like her getting legit injured. So I'm confused. What was the point of all that? If it's not going to lead to Asuka and Lana getting the championships away from Nia and Shayna, that was just like, what? You're taking her out of the match, and now we have to find out who's going to be. And people think, and I kind of think too, that's going to be Charlotte. Charlotte's going to come back. I don't know. I haven't really missed Charlotte that much, but I'm not like somebody that knocks her. Like I actually like Charlotte, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that because the story has been, Lana getting her comeuppance on Nia and Shayna, and now she's not in the match. Yeah, I don't get that. The last thing that I want to mention, and this really pissed me off. Besides something else that pissed me off, that I'm just gonna like do one quick sentence on after I talk about this. Uh, Keith Lee. Keith Lee is a phenomenal person in the ring. Like his promos. He's a lot of people aren't like a big fan of his talking style, but I don't mind it at all. I think it works for him. But I mentioned this last week, like DQ after DQ after DQ, and I don't get it. I don't get it at all. And just total garbage what they did with him last night. Miz and Morrison getting a win over him. Yes, it was a handicap match, but no, like he's so much better than that, and I don't know what their I don't know what their plans are with him. But it can't be this. It can't be this. Please stop. Please, it's not exciting at all. The last thing, Jackson Ryder back. No, thank you. So that was Raw and SmackDown, and now I want to do my top 5 favorite matches from 2012 to 2019. I'm going to go over it a little bit, but what's really cool is later on this week, maybe the weekend, follow me at Big Money Drew, and I'll let you know when it's going to get posted. I am actually writing a whole article on this. So what happened was on Thursday last week, I had this idea. I'm like, oh, you know what? Let me do this top 5 list. So I put down the matches that I thought of, and then I started to, I went and watched them back. And I found that as I was making notes, but I saw that I was actually kind of like reviewing the matches. So like, you know what, maybe I could make a post out of this on Cage Side Seats. So I've done like an actual breakdown of the matches and the story leading up to the matches and stuff like that. So I'm gonna actually have that up on Cage Side Seats sometime. I think maybe on the weekend. I'm not 100% sure yet, but that got approved, and I'm excited about that. So I'm going to go over my top five, but for my whole breakdown of everything, you can catch it at cagesidseats.com, and I will follow me at Big Monday Drew. I will let you know when that's going to go up. Okay. So number five, and before I do that too, I just wanted to say, some of these names, these matches, are not your typical matches that people will think of. I think I mentioned that at the top. So like, because I put the strict rules on myself, 2012 to 2019, there is a CM Punk versus John Cena match here, but it's not that one, the one that's on everyone's top five lists. There's another, there's a women's match, but it's not the women's match that's on everyone's top five list. It's different, and that's because I wasn't really an NXT watcher. I saw some takeovers, but I wasn't like into NXT that much. So we'll get there. Number five, Roman Reigns versus Sheamus at the Raw after TLC. Well, there we go. We're right in the wheelhouse of that. Roman Reigns versus Sheamus in the Raw after TLC in 2015. That was the year that Roman Reigns went all the way up and all the way down. Down first with the Royal Rumble, got booed out of that. The Rock came out. He won. The Rock raises his hand, and he's getting showered with boos. And you could see on The Rock's face, oh, yeah, this doesn't look very good. So the whole year, goes. Seth Rollins cashes in WrestleMania, and he gets injured. So at Survivor Series, it's Dean Ambrose versus Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns wins. Sheamus, who won the Money in the Bank, cashes in on him. That's the 5 minutes and 15 seconds. I just bro kicked your ass thing. And then interference at TLC with the League of Nations. Everyone remembered the League of Nations. Just causes Roman to lose it, and he attacks them all. Triple H comes out. He attacks Triple H. The next night, Vince McMahon comes back, and Vince McMahon basically just sets the whole scene for the show. And it was really fun. It was a great show, that whole show. And the match, Roman Superman punches Vince. He wins. The same crowd, well, maybe not the whole crowd, but in the same building, the same city, where he got booed mercilessly. Everyone's cheering for him. And that really should have been his coronation. Unfortunately, a couple weeks later, they already, by the Royal Rumble, everyone was happy to see Triple H win. So that's number five. Number four is my first match I ever watched outside of WWE. Ricochet versus Will Ospreay, Best of Super Juniors 2016. I had never seen any match outside of WWE, any type of wrestling outside of WWE before this match. I knew of Ricochet, Lucha Underground, I mentioned before. I think I was following him on Twitter at the time too, but I would just see like little clips here and there. Never heard of Will Ospreay before. Never. So I saw this match. Everyone was buzzing, so I watched it, and it was just like my perspective on wrestling changed that night. I was just enthralled. They did like the synchronous flip into the middle of the ring that Ricochet still does now, and then I'm looking at that like, oh my God, it's like the Superman, the two Supermans pointing at each other meme. And that was just amazing. It really was amazing. I stayed up all night. I actually wrote a fan post on Cage Side Seats that night and posted it. Uh, and it was so magical. And I wasn't like the type that was like, oh, you know, the flippy wrestlers and all that stuff and the choreographs. I actually loved it. I loved it so much. I couldn't believe it, what I was seeing. Just the total athleticism of both men in that match was just unbelievable. So that's my number 4. Number 3 is my women's match. And it's not, like I said, Bayley versus Sasha Banks. It's actually Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair at WWE's Evolution pay-per-view in 2018. Of course, we all know 2018, Becky turns heel on Charlotte at SummerSlam, but that never worked. Everyone cheered Becky, everyone booed Charlotte for months, while they tried to make Charlotte the babyface. I watched actually a bunch of segments between SmackDown, between SummerSlam and between this match at Evolution, and just everyone, Becky chants, Becky cheering, boos for Charlotte every single time. They tried a couple of times to make Becky DQ like a heel. It didn't take. Becky was always the babyface. So then it came to this match at Evolution, which I thought was actually the best match between them from SummerSlam to now, to that match. And just like, it was wonderful. It was a phenomenal match. You know, they did the ladder spot on the outside. Becky dives off there, lands on Charlotte on the announce table, collapses. She piles on a whole bunch of stuff, but Charlotte is just able to get up at the 9 count. And then Becky powerbombs her through the table. She retains the championship. She was the champion. And it was a wonderful match. It really was. And what was really cool about it was right before that was the cutting edge. Edge came back and had the cutting edge on SmackDown. And even though she had this line that she told him to get out of the ring, and she told him, make sure you don't injure your neck again on the way out, which would be a heel line, but everyone in the crowd ate it up still. And this was Edge, and everyone still ate it up. So, you know, it just never worked. I'm glad it never worked, because we wouldn't have the man Becky Lynch today if they really tried to steer us into Charlotte being a babyface. So that was a really fun match. It was my favorite match of them. And, you know, Sasha's had great matches and Bayley's had great matches. I'm not saying that they're not good or anything like that, because I actually really love them a lot. But my wrestling fandom really was Becky's ascension to the man and the star that she became, because I wasn't really an NXT viewer, so I didn't have all that Bayley Sasha history. You know, the match is iconic. The Takeover Brooklyn match, absolutely iconic, but it just doesn't have that same, you know, it's like 1A. It's like, here's that match, and here's Becky and Charlotte Evolution. They're right there. So I just want to let anybody know, you know, I don't hate Sasha. I don't hate Bayley. I love all the 4 Horsewomen. I love, you know, a lot of women's wrestlers, Alexa, Naomi, you know, Nikki Cross. See, I said Alexa this time. Remember last week I said Alexa. My Alexa went off, but I actually hit mute this time. I'm smart. Smart, Drew. Smart. Number 2. Now, number 2, remember I mentioned John Cena and CM Punk. Now, everyone's like top 5 in the top 5 is going to be John Cena, CM Punk, Money in the Bank 2011. But remember, this was 2012 to 2019, so I couldn't include Money in the Bank 2011. Instead, I had one of my favorite matches between the two of them was uh, at a Raw uh, in 2013, and it was when John Cena put his Rumble win on the line to face The Rock at WrestleMania. That was what a phenomenal match that was, because the story behind it was CM Punk always beat John Cena in singles competition. So John Cena now had to prove to himself that he could do it. That's that babyface thing again. You don't have to put your thing on the line, your Rumble win, to go on to face The Rock at WrestleMania on the line, but that's what happens. So, but I'm glad though that that did happen that way, because it just added so much drama and tension to the match. They're trying to one up each other. Punk does a pile driver, which hadn't been seen on WWE television for, I don't know, it was banned. I don't remember. I don't really know when it was banned exactly, but that was a banned move, and they did it in the match. John Cena does a Hurricane Rana. I mean, you could see the anger and the anguish, and the crowd was behind it the whole way. Just, John Cena gets a pin. CM Punk just kicks out at right at 2.9, and the crowd, you can see some people in the crowd like, oh my God, John Cena won, but no, and it just keeps going, and then near fall. It's so enthralling to watch. I've watched that match a lot, actually. So that's my number two. But number one for me was probably one of the only matches I've ever actually had tears, and that was, and probably a match that's in a lot of people's top fives, I would imagine. Number one, Daniel Bryan, Batista, Randy Orton, WrestleMania 30. That was an incredible storyline. And Daniel Bryan finally gets that big win after the Authority was putting him down. The whole story for that was just incredible. It really was. Daniel having to fight Triple H, because Triple H was like, I got to do it myself if I want it done, and he was going to put himself into the match with the Royal Rumble winner that year, Batista, and champion Randy Orton. But Daniel Bryan got that match with him to start that WrestleMania, and then he won. He goes to the main event, and it was incredible. I actually had tears. It was. I became such a big fan of Daniel Bryan's from that whole storyline, and to see him get that win was just, it was great. I had goosebumps. I have goosebumps now thinking about it. It was so incredible. And that's my number one. So I really had fun watching these matches and ranking them. And thank you for clicking on this. Thank you for watching. I am excited to be doing these podcasts again. You can follow me at Big Money Drew on Twitter, and on CageSideSeats.com, I do my reviews for Raw and SmackDown and the main roster pay-per-views. And that's it. Tune in next week, next Tuesday. We're going to do these on Tuesday. And we'll see. I'm going to think of stuff for the next one. Maybe I'll do best. I was thinking about maybe doing top 5 entrance music. Maybe I'll do that next week. But I'm gonna think. I'm gonna do some cool new things with this, and not just do Raw, SmackDown, and AEW. If I do AEW, I didn't do AEW this week. And then your typical thing. I'm recording this. I'm feeling good about this. So I think maybe next week I will do top 5 entrance music. That's going to be a hard one because I like a lot of wrestlers' entrance music. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. So thanks for watching again. Subscribe, hit the thumbs up for me, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.